and this is part two after I've got myself together, um, minus the gum that I was chewing the entire time last time. Um, but this is what I want to talk about pre 15-year-old self that also contributed to a lot of these wounds and patterns in my life. And this is like exposing parents, but I'm going to anyhow. When I was little, before I was born, my mom and dad were open enough to tell me over the years what had happened with them and what they did. And I appreciate their vulnerability and their openness. So thank you for that. But I'm going to share it with you because I feel like I can. My mom's not around, and my dad is open. So what what I was being programmed with there was a lot of toxic sex-based stuff as well. So, my dad did a lot of cheating and openly admitted sex addict. He dealt with some extremely toxic circumstances that affected his body and himself and um, affected my mom. And he did a lot of cheating. My mom stayed and kept in that relationship regardless of that. Um, they, you know, had traumas. They chose to not have a child before me, um, and that was based on the sexual accident per se, and the time period in the 70s of, well, you didn't do it right, or it wasn't the right time, and maybe they weren't married. I'm not really sure exactly what happened behind that, but that created a trauma around that sexual aspect too. And then after my dad's cheating, and after I was born, and sometime before 10 years old, there was another person that lived here. It was a guy that they were friends with. I don't know if anything ever went on other than that. But then a little bit later, like right around 10 years old, my mom actually decided to be with another guy and have him be present at the house while my dad was also here. So, that I would witness my dad upset. I would witness my mom, intimately involved with the other guy. He treated me great, and so did everyone else. I was never treated poorly in this situation, but what I saw was dynamics happening with love and relationship. And, I saw a lot of you know, lack of communication and this self-abandonment and this like cheating or this like blatant obvious discretion between, here's my dad, here's this other person who I actually refer to as like a stepdad because he was so influential in my life. But one day my dad decided he was going to come out of the room and that he was going to shoot them both, and he had like a come to Jesus moment and decided that instead he was going to move out instead of do that. There was a lot of partying and drinking on his end too when I was little, which I never had a problem with alcohol in my life, probably because of that. But I just saw this like wild lifestyle, and this do what I want free life, which again, as I made posts about my mom, like very grateful that she taught me how to be free with my body and dance and self-expression. On the other side of it, my mom was a deeply wounded person who um, couldn't get what she wanted from one person, so she added another. And then when my mom and dad finally split ways around with the time when I was about 14 or 15 before I found my first relationship, um, my mom was alone, but then, she went on to have, cheap relationships and casualness and those things. And, I experienced all that right alongside with what I was doing. So right when she got divorced is right when I met my girlfriend, my first girlfriend, and had all that dynamic going on. So, the things are older and deeper than just what happened at 15. at the teen years, at your first relationship experience, they go back farther. And, what were those programs when I was little? You can't get what you want through one person. So, there were times in my 20s where I was like, oh, I need multiple people. You can't just be with one person. I don't believe in the whole monogamy thing. And, we need to be with several people, and that's how you get fulfilled. That's just what I saw, you know. Um, I don't think that at all now, but it was presented to me. And then, my sex escapades, I mean, directly come from my dad's sex addiction and from, my mom's free, cheap, casual sex that she had had after that, when she was empty and, you know, sad. I mean, I even found some things that she wrote after she died that was like very empty and very sad, very devoid of love and self-love. And so she died young because of it. She self-abandoned a lot and didn't think highly of herself and self-sacrificed for everyone else. And I've had many conversations with my dad after this that has been healing because he is alive and he is around and he tells the truth and I tell my truth. And there were some profound truths that he told me that I, was appreciate with the openness. So that's where that healing does occur. And a lot of my clients that come to me are afraid to talk to their parents. They're afraid to tell them how they really feel. They're afraid to, open that door because they've handled it with the relationships and the partners, but then they haven't gone back into the more like older source, which is the parents, and addressed it with them. They're like, oh, I'm not even going to do that. I'll wait till they die. Or, oh, I could never say that to my parents. You know what? You just got to say, fuck it. You got to do it. The healing comes from being vulnerable and speaking the truth and asking to talk to them. And, sometimes they may shut it down and they may say, we're not going to do this. Okay, fine. Then you have to find a way to let that go without their help or their assistance on that. But, at least attempting to do it can be healing. But I just wanted to add that in because it isn't all the way I was, had other droplets of other things involved too, and staying in something, right? My dad stayed for 5 years. My mom continued that for 5 years. She stayed for 10 years before that when he was doing shit. So they both stayed. And then I stayed. And then my first girlfriend stayed for 3 years. I stayed for 2. She stayed for 3. They didn't know they had choices and they stayed in the patterns. So I learned that too. Mind blowing. Okay, I've had enough depth for one day. I'm going to go shopping and work out. Thank you for listening and holding a space for me. And if you can get anything out of this for yourself, that's the whole fucking point. My openness and vulnerability, I hope, brings the same for you. And I'm here if you want to send it to me and no one else. I'm listening.